Mm.
how do we use our mind? Are we just cluttering it up with a bunch of nonsense and a bunch of like, facts and screens and whatnot? Or are we going to really use it to streamline? And AI coming in
Mm.
gives us a lot of food for thought in how we use our brains and how how we move forward.
Well, it's quantum. I think first of all, Gemini is Uranus and Gemini. So, Gemini. If I think about the mind, is it sort of sticks on. It's patternistic. It's programmed and it likes patterns and it's got its patterns and we all have our circles and circles. And Gemini's could not be more true to that. Like they get caught in a rut. I have a son who's Gemini. I love him to death, but he's just like, "Doo-doo-doo-doo." I'm like, what about here? What about here? What about here? And then he's like, no, Dad, this is fine. But I think Uranus like, oh no, sorry, here doesn't. We're closing here. I mean, when Uranus shows up, it's like that is not going to work anymore. Wherever it hits you, it's like that's not going to work, and that's not going to work. It's sort of like karate chops in my experience. Like and you knew that wasn't going to be a good idea. Like it just kind of and clears a way for you to see something different. Kind of thing. So Gemini's and how they're locked in thought. The thing is, as they grow fast with Gemini, I think they hold the mental mind right. I think, the telepathic grid that we all surf on is really Gemini people. They're the point and point presence. They're the modems. They're logging us all into the net kind of in a weird way. And so if they upgrade, well, then we're all kind of getting pulled up that way. That neural net goes high.
Yeah, and I think for all of us with our Gemini in our chart, that one of the shadows to really look at is what we allow into our mind. Like we have to curate what's coming through because otherwise it's just cluttered and then it's messy. It's like walking into like a hoarder house where there's just so much stuff that you can't concentrate. And so
Yes.
that is part of Gemini, Uranus coming into Gemini is it's going to ask us like what does the real estate of your mind look like, and are you ever in the present moment? Because if you're not in the present moment, then you're just so busy you're missing everything. You're basically on autopilot.
It's interesting because I think their shadow was, first of all, Uranus in the 12th in Taurus. They had, their values, they have certain subconscious values. They didn't know that they hadn't got their programming to reprogram. Like they didn't know that they had these subconscious problems. I think there were the problems. And I'm a Taurus. So I feel like I was his problem. I'm his dad, like I set him up for him. I get, you're welcome. That's how it works. But, but they realized that they were ultimately putting faith in the wrong things, which is how they value and what they had faith in for them. Like what they have faith in is turns to that value. But Leo's in their third house. I mean, the way they stay in charge of like in their highest is just let their heart choose what they think about. If your heart chooses what you think about, oh my God, you're gonna love your life because, I think to some degree they let their minds go to the dark side. They didn't necessarily think they had control their mind. Their mind had control them. I see that a lot. But there's also shadow with Pisces, which is, career. They all have like they've all failed. I mean, if you talk to Gemini's, their perspective is they have failed at this, they failed at that. There's a lot of karma, like what they were bad at or tried doing. They'll tell you the list of things, and I was like, we all have a list of things. It's cool, like it's all good. But yeah, it's their 12th house, and to be able to produce or not produce. But Pisces in the 10th house, like where they were in the career, how they're stuck in a career. If you talk to them or they can't break out in their career, that's been the whole like since 2012.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's like you said, it's like when you're disconnected from your heart
Mm-hmm.
and you're just up in the mind,
Mm-hmm.
where is there's nowhere to go. Then you're just at a stop and you're in disconnection because of all of the incoming information. So really important for everybody with their Gemini stuff to be so specific about what you're going to allow to like take up the space in your mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think to some degree, Geminis get lost because thinking about it is almost as good as thinking about it the first time you experience it. And they're a little confused because they think about it and their mind is so powerful. They drop, I think, the whole memory much better than we probably do. And they have like a full memory of it, like, as far as five senses, because that's ruled by the nervous system. Like they own all that. And so they live in those memories, they live in those thoughts. And it's like, those are cool. But when you're actually getting it live and your mind is responding to the real thing live for the first time, that's the coolest. Like when you see something brand new, right? That's what you really want. So it's a great place to have that mind because then you're absorbing, you're communicating, you're expanding. So it's about them heading into the rainbow wind, and that is their heart. Think about what you love, and then go do something to like expand your mind that way. So we're gonna see them grow fast because they're not gonna let AI take over. Gemini's are not gonna lose that like domain, but it's interesting. It's under threat.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely, um, there's a lot of, like I said, remembering to come into the here and the now. that is going to be really helpful for the Geminis, because it's a way to balance out just all the stuff of like the third house, right? Like like the immediate environment. Like, okay,
Mm,
let me just take stock, because it's very seductive to go up into the mind and do all the thinking, but coming down to right here, right now is the grounding point and the
mhm,
way to come back to reality.
mm. Well, Cancer ruling their second house of money, Jupiter in Cancer, they're expanding their philosophy about feelings, and they're expanding they're expanding their resolution of feelings, because it's leading to them manifesting or not manifesting. They've got to get themselves emotionally behind something like in order to make it really work for them. So they're growing on that, and then Jupiter's heading for Leo, which means they're going to way spike up in intelligence and comprehension,
Right.
probably in about a year from now. So, anyways, they're budding minds, so to speak. I think the other shadow too is Scorpio. I'll just say right now, workplace. Their sixth house, like they have been facing health issues. They've been facing any of their shadows with living in daily life. I've noticed, including homelessness, being afraid of being able to keep a place or keep a job. I've seen them, hurting that way, and it's like they're facing their demons. I think of times when they, lived their whole life on the street or something, or went too far, or did not go to the doctor in time, and so an infection almost as bad comes out. It's interesting to see those parallels, but those are their, where their darkness has been also.